This should. Okay.
What are you doing?
Hi, Sally. Okay.
Okay.
So, I would like to open this work session of the Webster Conservation Commission. It is September
28th.
28th, 2021. Can we do a little roll call here, Sally?
Sally Embley,
Isabel Brittenell.
Betsy Janeway.
Susie Roman.
And Chris Shadler. Okay, thank you. Tonight, our
Can you get someone to take notes?
do you mind? That would be great. Tonight, we have one agenda item, and that agenda item is to review the subcommittee's work on revising the Wetlands and Watershed Protection Ordinance draft in response to issues that came up at the public hearing that the planning board held perhaps a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. So you have your copy of did you have a chance to review it?
Yes.
Everybody's reviewed it? Okay, great. Why don't we, Sue and Isabel, as members of the subcommittee, why don't you walk us through? Or do this in however you thought a review of this would be best.
Well, frankly, I was thinking that maybe folks would have questions or stuff might have been confusing.
Well, let's
So why
start.
don't we do that?
Let's start with the first one and see if anybody had any issues with the revision on the replacement of septic systems. I did not.
No, I had no problem with it.
Yes, if it meets all state statutes.
Right.
Why
Right.
not?
And by the way, MJ can't be here tonight, but she was in agreement with all of the changes that were made. So, just want to say that. So that the replacement of septic systems, your recommendation is fine, it's good. Storage of petroleum products, this is where I had a question on this one. So what we have done is recommend that restriction on petroleum products in the district remain in the ordinance as written because it will apply only to new structures and uses, which means that anybody building a house within the district from the time that this is passed in March, hopefully, forward, will have to, cannot store petroleum products within that 75 or 100-foot buffer zone.
Correct.
How, if there is a lot that is a lot already in place now, but the lot is small and near a wetland or the river, what will they do?
What, I'm sorry.
If they have a tiny lot, what will they do?
It's already existing. Is it a buildable lot?
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
it's a grandfather buildable lot,
Okay,
let's just say, but it's small.
okay.
And, they're in the same situation as, say, Mike Jetty's family is with regard to storing petroleum products. I'm just wondering what is the alternative for those people?
Well, first of all, Mike Jetty is grandfathered, so it's not an issue for.
He was pretty angry
Yeah.
about it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we think he's okay.
He's grandfathered because his home and his shed and everything is already there.
Exactly.
But in a situation where somebody moves into town and purchases a small lot, has not built anything, and lives on or near a wetland, what would be their what are they going to do? What are they
Well,
looking?
first of all, they would have either a 50-foot buffer or a 100-foot buffer, right? Depending on what district
Mm-hmm,
this was in,
okay,
and depending
Well-
on, on the what.
Or it could be a 75-foot buffer if it's a
Right,
smaller
it could be a
lot.
75-foot buffer. Right, if it was level 1 and less than 2 acres. There's only a limited number of new 2-acre lots that can be created. And if they're not developed, they have the right to develop, but they have, when they develop, they have to, they generally do have to comply with laws if they're not already built. In other words,
Mhm.
when they build. But the issue for a lot of these lots is if they want to expand beyond where they are, if they're non-conforming lots, and a 2-acre lot generally is a non-conforming lot, because we have 5-acre zoning, and the only exception we have to that is that lots between 4 and 10 acres that were existing at the time of the 5-acre enactment get to be divided once,
mm,
okay?
mhm,
So there can be new 2-acre lots created,
mm.
but that's only for the 4 to 10 acre lots that were in existence at that time. So the issue is, to me, is if you can't do the 50 feet or the 75 feet, then you have to get a variance or a CUP. I think that these lots will have to get a variance anyway, if they're that small, to meet other setback requirements.
Mhm.
If they get taken out of the ordinance, what we try to do is remind people in here that right now in our zoning ordinance, and I don't know if everybody's aware of that, we have a setback from
Mhm.
lakes,
Mhm.
ponds, and what else?
Rivers?
Streams,
Yes.
yep,
And brooks.
Yes.
or in brooks.
So we already have a 50-foot setback from those things. Now, that doesn't cover all the wetlands, obviously, and that's why we're doing the wetlands ordinance.
Mhm.
So they have to get a variance if they're on any of those things. If they're not on any water, then they don't even go under the ordinance. They don't even come within the district. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so my question is, and I should have looked this up and I did not. The recommendation is gonna stay, but should we include in this section of the ordinance that anybody seeking the storage of petroleum is going to have to look for a CUP or a variance?
A variance, not a CUP.
Okay. Well,
Right.
just, I'm quoting
Yeah,
Sue.
variance.
Oh,
It's a variance, not a
Yes, it would be a
CUP.
variance because there is no CUP for petroleum, but they would have to get a variance.
But,
Yes, it would have to
Correct.
be a variance. They wouldn't be going under the wetlands ordinance. They'd have to go under the regular variance law.
so it would fall under the zoning law, the
Right.
zoning,
Yeah.
okay. As somebody is reading through the language of the ordinance, does it say specifically that they can apply for a variance?
No ordinances that I know of do that, except in the section that talks about grandfathering, and we have that section. But it's by law, any kind of non-conforming lot that wants to become more non-conforming has to apply for a variance under zoning law and under state law. So it's not usually said in the ordinances, that's what I can tell you. You don't usually see that stated.
Okay, here's my concern. My concern is that at the public hearing the other night, some people, were giving us feedback on, the fact that reading the ordinance is kind of difficult. It's, it is what it is. And if they read that new structures and uses will have a restriction on the use of, or the storage of petroleum,
Mm-hmm.
and this, I'm talking specifically about this one.
Yeah, it can apply to many other uses. You have to realize that.
Okay,
What you're saying,
but-
you would have to write that for every use. why would you just pick out petroleum?
Okay, so I'm
What about salt shed?
I'm suggesting here that this could be alarming to people.
What
And
could be alarming?
The whole petroleum issue, storing fuel, storing oil and gas and that kind of
Because you
thing.
need to have a little tank of gas for your lawnmower and your tractor or whatever. You know? I have
right.
one in my garage, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
The
a normal
issue is-
thing.
The issue is, if it's already sitting in a garage and there's a garage there, it's
Right.
grandfathered.
right, but if it's not,
grandfathered.
but if it's not,
But if it's not, and they're building the house, they should build it so that the gas isn't, the petroleum isn't in the district. We're not talking about, we're talking about a district of 50 foot or 100 or 75 feet. You know, we're not talking about the whole lot.
right?
I don't understand the need to put it in the buffer. What is the need to put it in the buffer? If they have to put it in the buffer, we're really talking that small, but we can't put a gas can behind the buffer. And I'm sorry,
You
we
can't
should
turn
just
around.
quit.
Well, we know that at least there's one person living right next to Clothespin Bridge that has a .28 acre lot.
I think 0.8 or something like that.
It's not
And-
that big.
And everything that he wants to do, if he wants to expand this, he has to go get a variance under the underlying zoning law.
Mm-hmm.
But he's grandfathered for where he's keeping his,
Mhm.
he's grandfathered.
So he can
So
keep his
this
gas
has to be
can.
analyzed.
Right.
Is it grandfathered? Yes or no? Is it new development? If it's new development, I'm sorry, they can find another place to put a gas can in the buffer.
Okay,
That's my answer,
Okay,
you know? I mean, appreciate the concern,
Yeah,
but that's the answer. It's like, if he is grandfathered.
Right, and I think that from the public hearing, those questions were raised by people who were concerned about what they could or couldn't do right now.
mm-hmm,
And as Sue says, that guy with the teeny tiny acre, he's grandfathered, so
Mhm.
he can keep his gas
But
can.
he
Yes.
can't expand his house without getting a
That is
variance.
correct.
Most likely,
That is correct.
he doesn't, he's not within town setbacks already. On the underlying setbacks, I'm not talking about buffers and wetlands, I'm talking about the underlying zoning ordinance.
mm-hmm.
And the setbacks, the building setbacks under, so he's already non-conforming
Right.
in that respect.
Nope.
If he wants to expand, he's gotta go to
Yes,
ZBA and get a
that's correct.
variance.
Good. I totally understand that.
Good, good.
I mean, it's not really me that needs to have that clarification. I
No, I
wanted
get-
this said,
Yeah.
you know, so that it goes out in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about the people who were concerned about
Mm-hmm.
buying a lot and what they could do with that lot in this town.
Yeah, there's not
And-
that many small lots like that to buy that aren't developed now. And I wanted to count those, but we didn't get to
Right.
counting them.
Yeah.
Actually counting them, but there is, most of what was raised that night is already grandfathered, but
Mhm.
again, if something's going to be developed, in order to protect the wetland that's there, I think that they ought to put petroleum in a different place on the lot.
Mhm.
you
is
know?
there any provision for more secure storage? I mean, as opposed to just a plastic jerry can, which everybody has. I mean, would you want to specify metal or anything like that?
We
The thing
It
is we're just
spills,
prohibiting it
you know.
so far as this ordinance is concerned, is that we're not, it's just in the buffer we're prohibiting it. It can go anywhere else. Now, if they're over an aquifer, the groundwater.
That's already covered
the
in the groundwater, yeah.
Presumably, if they stay out of the buffer, the wetland's okay. If they're over an aquifer, then the groundwater protection ordinance takes over, and that has sealed containers of 5 gallons or less on non-permeable surfaces. That
That's what I
has,
thought I
that
said.
has, so the problem is, really need to know the other ordinances to,
yes, there's a lot
To-
to know.
you need to know the other ordinances to properly evaluate this, to properly enforce it. You need to know the other ordinances and to make people understand that, a lot of this stuff is grandfathered if they've already developed it. But again, I say that we're just trying to keep that buffer as pristine as we can. I could CCUPs to allow expansions into it of buildings, but not to put petroleum there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Petroleum is hazardous for the wetland.
Right.
I have a comment which is sort of popped into my brain in the context of your question, Chris. I mean, it seems to me that the whole question about grandfathering is important and that many people still don't quite get it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had those frequently asked questions. What happened to that? Because
Nothing.
okay, I'm
Nothing.
thinking that we really need to publicize the whole issue.
Excuse me, just
We'll
a
just
minute.
laugh a little.
I can't even find my, so,
I was just
sorry.
with somebody
Ringtone.
who's
So what I
probably
was saying is that we ought to publicize,
Yeah,
educate people more.
what
You
grandfather.
know, you beat them over the head with it. I mean, repeat it 59,000 times about the grandfathering.
Mhm.
And it was in the frequently asked questions along with some other
It's
stuff.
probably not too late to write something for the grapevine about what's a grandfather lot.
What about the frequently asked questions for the grapevine? Let alone posting that.
So I was talking to Dee the other night,
Uh-huh.
and we were talking about that. She said I have about a week to get that in, so
Uh-huh.
I've begun using those FAQs
Uh-huh.
Dee does it.
to put in, yeah, for as long, well. So anyway,
So that's
Working
my
on it.
point.
so,
We need to talk about it.
and, what's that?
We need to talk about it with the public more.
Uh-huh.
Particularly the question about grandfather.
Well, when we have our meeting in October, we'll talk, one of the items on the agenda will be strategy. And the work that we're going to get out to the public. So, okay, let's move forward on this. Does anybody else have any other issues with number 2? Okay, number 3, regulation of docks. You made it really clear that the state controls
Yeah.
docks.
Yeah, there's actually 2 levels to that. For great ponds and, fourth order rivers and brooks and better, they have exclusive jurisdiction according to a Supreme Court case.
What?
So they have exclusive, the state has exclusive jurisdiction. In other words, we can't regulate docks or piers or boardwalks on the water for those water bodies that I just mentioned.
And give me an example of what a fourth order,
Probably the Blackwater.
oh,
Well, that's
okay.
it's probably the Blackwater, but I don't know for offhand.
Okay.
But, I'm not sure, I have to look it up.
Somebody really wants to get to you.
It's my sister and I can't mute this thing. Okay.
Can you
I'm
turn
sorry.
your phone off, Chris?
I can't, it won't go off.
Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
I know how to turn it off.
Okay, would you pass this down, please, Isabel?
Famous last words. Let me see if I can do this.
So great ponds and fourth order water bodies like the Blackwater are regulated completely by DES.
Correct.
Okay. For
Docks.
Docks, mhm.
Okay. These are structures, and the relevant
Sally.
word is structure, and that's defined in the statute.
Magic.
But those are regulated by the state, structures over the water or that are anchored in the bank next to the water. Those are regulated by the state. All other wetlands, dock structures on wetlands or in the banks of wetlands are also regulated by the state, but the municipalities can regulate it if they want to,
Mhm.
okay? They can pose more restrictive regulations. So there's a part of this world that we could also regulate, and there's a part of the world that we can't also regulate with the
Mhm.
state. We've decided to simply, their oversight of this and the rules and everything should be good enough. And we're conceding that, or acceding to the wishes to just not make a dual system
Mm-hmm,
you know, administratively complex dual system.
mm-hmm,
We believe that the state rules will protect sufficiently.
mm-hmm.
Not so maybe with shoreline water quality, which is a whole different issue and a
Yeah.
different department of DES.
Right,
Okay, but this is the dredge and fill, this is 482A, this is that section of DES.
right. Okay,
Okay.
Isabel, want to add anything to that?
Mm-mm.
So, anybody have any questions?
Well, what did you mean in the very beginning? You said 2 levels.
Well, in other words, I was just describing you the underlying regulation that's already done by the state.
Oh, okay.
And one is for the great ponds and rivers.
Yes.
The other is for
Yes.
everything smaller. And they
Okay.
regulate everything smaller. Theoretically, even vernal pools, because I asked them. You
Okay.
know, that, for structures on, but, you know, the question is having everybody acknowledge something's a vernal pool in the first place.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. Oh, boy.
Tell me again what 482A is. Is that,
That's the RSA for
Dredge
wetland
and
permitting.
fill?
Yeah, wetland permitting, yeah, wetland, oh, I'd have to look up the title.
no, never mind.
Any dock, pier, or other structure, doesn't it apply specifically to that?
Well, it actually says structure, but because we have docks and, it includes docks and piers.
Okay,
Okay, I can read you the.
no, it's okay.
Okay, just wanted to,
Okay, number 4 of 5. Vertical expansion of existing houses. So building up on a house, not out, but up.
Oh,
So,
vertical.
mhm,
That
Yes.
got carried over from the new, we borrowed some language, we borrowed language from other statutes to try to, you know, we really examined a lot of different statutes and tried to find the best way to say it and the best way. New London had a great section on non-conforming lots and uses and structures. But what came over with that was this vertical expansion idea. We have no vertical expansion prohibition in our underlying zoning laws.
No.
So we're just going to just get rid of this. It probably should not have been there.
Delete.
okay,
I know the example was the dormer at Jetties,
Yeah,
because he can't have a family room.
yeah.
But that means expanding, you know, if you wanted to put in 2 extra stories, is that
We
okay
don't have any height restrictions,
at all?
not that
So
I know
Trump,
of.
our friend Trump could put in a Trump Towers right there on South Street.
yeah, okay.
I'm so excited.
And
I'm
I
thinking
so
of
know
Walker
he's
Pond and
interested.
that thing that looks like a hotel.
Yes, right. Okay, so that's going to be deleted.
That's all right, okay.
That, I think that was really a good choice. And then now number 5 talks about the expansion of primary dwellings on non-conforming lots, existing non-conforming lots that are small, less than 2 acres in size. So some people live on very small lots with wetland, they are wetland abutters and may want to expand. So you listed a number of factors that you all considered.
This was super, super difficult
I bet.
to get through, so.
So what you have done, which I think is a really good idea, you've listed the factors that you considered, and then your recommendation, you came up with 2 solutions to the problem.
Choose one or the other, yeah.
Yeah, and the planning board should be the ones to choose these because they'll be enforcing that.
Yeah,
And
they'll be selecting. What I'm hoping is that they will choose one of those rather than just delete lots of 2 acre from the ordinance. You know, in other words, take them out of the jurisdiction of the ordinance.
Yeah, we absolutely, well, I strongly felt that that should not happen. But Sue's raised a concern that that could happen in the planning board. But so what we tried to do was to give the planning board some other options to consider that we think are reasonable, either 1 or 2. And hopefully they won't even go to the idea of removing 2-acre lot, to less than 2-acre lots from the ordinance.
The heart of the argument is that there are so many underlying zoning ordinances that already restrict, that, for instance, this expansion, like I said, as we noted with some people who came to the hearing, they would need a variance to do it anyway. This law doesn't make the underlying zoning ordinance go away.
Right.
So they already have to go for a variance I think there will, in most cases, if they have to exceed the setback lines. If you take it out of the ordinance, they still have the 50 feet from lakes, ponds, brooks, and rivers. They still have that to satisfy. Now, this might be a shrub wetland that is not in that, but a number of them, particularly the people that we heard from on the Blackwater River, will have to get a variance from that provision. That's in the underlying zoning ordinance. So with people having to go for a variance anyway, why throw everything out and not protect the buffer, the wetlands that are protectable?
Mm-hmm.
That's the heart of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody can choose, it's by law, they can either go through a CUP process, if there is one, and we've given them an option to write in a CUP, conditional use permit process,
Right.
or they can choose to go straight for a variance.
Mm-hmm.
So in their variance application, they can say, we want a variance from building setbacks, we want a variance from the wetland buffer, and we want a variance, we want whatever other variances they need.
Is it easier to get a variance than it is to get a CUP?
On practical matter, I don't think so, but in legal theory, it should be.
Okay.
Variances are supposed to be harder to get.
Thank you.
And there was some new case law that kind of stopped there has to be a real economic deprivation. Not just, you can't fulfill. My wish is to have this. Well, too bad. It's got to be really a kind of economic deprivation that amounts to almost a taking. But the CUP has standards in here, and I think that it all depends on how the board or commission involved. In this case, it would be boards, either the planning board or the zoning board. It's all, there's a lot of wiggle room in these standards. But generally speaking, the variance is harder than, and they already have to go for it. Go for it, go for the variance.
Mm-hmm.
So the part of this in the law is that people, when they buy something and it's too small, they've sort of come to the problem. They've accepted the problem to begin with. That's what the equity says. It's like, you can't just break the laws because you made a bad decision about buying this lot.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Can we put that in the FAQs? I like that.
That's the idea behind this, is that you don't, corrode the law or corrode protections because you you bought a lot that's too small with but you have to balance that against, some reasonableness too. So, but those standards do apply, and I can't. So this is to throw these lots out because of this ordinance, trying to preserve the buffer, is the little tiny tail wagging the dog. Because these lots, will have to have all these variances anyway.
Maybe the biggest thing I always felt that in Webster, it was the Wild West. That people just do things and then come and say, what do you mean I needed a permit? And then what do you do?
Those are the Judy Jones days, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you make people aware of what the existing requirements are?
Yeah.
Well,
They have to get a building permit, so that ought to be and most people know that, correct? Wouldn't you say?
even people who know that don't get one.
Yeah.
Well, that's another issue, but
Mhm.
but the question is how to link all this other information, and maybe it could be through the building permit
Well, I'm
process.
not sure that the building permit has yet enough, and I know that Russ has been working on it, but I don't know if it has yet enough language in it to call people's attention to the wetland ordinance.
Right,
and to the town zoning,
right.
you know.
I understand that, Chris, but maybe it could.
Yes,
Yeah, it really needs to be gone over.
right.
And really the commission should meet with the zoning enforcement officer and go over, the various laws that affect conservation.
Yep,
and
I
nature
agree. I
And make
agree.
sure that those are, and get them into that checklist.
I also think that we should attend a ZBA meeting
Mhm.
and talk to those folks, because if they're going to be in a position of granting a variance
How?
one way or another, I
Yeah,
think,
we should meet with them. If the law passes, I think we should meet with them.
yeah.
If the law passes, otherwise don't bother.
Oh,
Well,
Well-
I mean, we could meet with them on other grounds. I'm just saying, Chris was pointing to this ordinance.
Yeah, I just
If
wanted,
if it's not enacted, then there is no ordinance, so.
okay.
That's what I meant.
Who, I don't think it's necessary for the commission to attend the planning board meeting tomorrow night, but I think it's important for one or two knowledgeable people to attend the meeting tomorrow night, because if the planning board decides to do something untoward, yes,
Well, no, finish your sentence and then,
untoward, ...
okay.
So we don't have to go to the,
I was planning to go, I think Sue's
too.
planning
I
to
know,
go.
I'm not able to.
I can
Oh,
go.
okay, okay,
I'm not able to go.
Uh,
That's a
um,
long-standing commitment I have, and.
it's all right.
Not a problem.
Okay,
I'm
thank you,
happy to go.
because I just.
Okay,
And as a member of the subcommittee,
yes,
that's appropriate, I
it's
think.
important to have, thank you.
Mhm.
But it's good to go, after our discussion here, you kind of know, you'll know more about these.
Yeah, the issues.
And the issues and can help address them if they call on. I
Right.
don't know how that meeting will be run.
Yeah, I don't think, Craig gave me the impression that it wasn't going to be a lot of give and take between the planning board and the conservation commission.
Yeah.
That, I think he might have emailed you on this too, Sue, that
No.
he's given this
Oh, yeah. yes.
out to all the planning
Yes.
board members,
Yeah,
so
I got
they're
that email.
they're aware.
Yeah, okay.
So, we'll see, but I'm glad that you're gonna be there. I'm glad that some of us can be there.
I can
That's
go.
great.
That is not
Great.
promised.
It's at 5, is it? No.
No, I think it's
6:30?
7.
Oh,
It's
Is
at
it-
7:00.
7,
Yeah.
okay.
why did I think it was 6:30?
Yeah, I thought it was 6:30.
You think it's 6:30?
Select board is 6:30. I think planning board is 7 o'clock.
I have it all written. I think I must have seen it
You
somewhere.
know what,
Put down
I'll
that seven.
email Craig and ask him what time it
Okay.
is.
It should be posted on the website.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure it's
go to the
7.
website.
So,
Okay.
Could I ask a question? I forget where it came up, but I think there is gonna be a lot of confusion about the setbacks. People confuse that with the buffers. And
What's
well,
a
they
buffer?
see a buffer as a setback.
There is no setbacks in the wetlands ordinance. There
Oh,
are no setbacks, there are only buffers.
aha.
okay,
That is
Way back, Sally, we had setbacks and buffers
Right.
in the ordinance, but we took the setbacks out.
Oh.
That was confusing.
The buffer is supposed to be naturally vegetated.
Yeah,
and the
I
setbacks
understand
are
that.
Building setbacks. So if some ordinances have setbacks of buildings from the buffer to protect the buffer,
yeah.
Oh,
okay? And we took that out to make this easier and less burdensome to people. We took those out. And we left the buffers. But where you're gonna find setbacks is the underlying zoning ordinance. That's where the setbacks are, which still apply. This does not preempt the zoning ordinance. In a couple of places it might overrule, but generally not.
Okay,
Definitions, for instance, the definitions, if a definition's in here, if it's in the ordinance here,
yeah,
then that's the one you look to, not the one in the zoning ordinance. And we have a provision that says that.
So in the FAQs, I'm not sure that we had a question that came up on the difference between a buffer and a setback.
I didn't bring that with me, but I thought there might have been one.
I
But-
can't remember
But
talking
it's
about
in,
one.
if there was one, it's written up.
The thing that get confusing, but I hope that they will be able to the argument here is that people who are arguing that they don't want to get a variance from the buffer already have to get variances from setback rules. So they're already, but we did offer up 2 other options. We offered a new CUP and we offered a restricted buffer, a more restricted buffer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, we will.
any other comments on this?
So we, as the Conservation Commission, are okay with these 5 recommendations?
That's what I'm I'd like to have a vote on this. I think it would be a good thing to take a vote on it. So I'm going to move that we accept these recommendations to the Wetlands and Watershed Protection Ordinance draft as amended. Note that we didn't make any amendments.
Did we do the last one?
Yep.
If you have some more questions, Betsy, ask them now.
Yeah.
But I didn't think we did. We had to choose between one.
Well, planning board does.
Planning board's
We
been
recommend that the planning board select one of the
Of the-
following options.
Right, and so.
Which one do we like? I decided the first one was a little bit better, but
Well, it's not up to us.
it's not up to us. Okay,
Right.
I don't have to worry about that.
No?
I struggled
Yeah,
in
that's
vain.
We couldn't decide, and therefore we decided, let's just leave it to the planning board to make that decision. Because there's pluses and minuses for either one.
Okay,
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
pluses and minuses for
all
that.
right.
So I need a second.
May I just,
Just give me a second on
I
this,
second.
and then we can still talk.
I just want to be seated to vote as a member.
Oh,
I'm an
yes, please. Recognizing that
That's
Sue,
all I was interrupting for.
yeah, will
Oh,
have.
because you were
You're-
turned yourself into an alternate. Oh, okay.
Do you want to resume as a full voting member until the end of your time?
I don't know why, because I thought Michelle stepped into that slot.
I thought so too. Not sure
Okay,
anymore.
I'll think about that, but for
You'll what?
tonight, I'll think about that.
You'll
But
think about it,
tonight
great.
I'll vote as a member, a sitting
Okay.
member, as a, just
Perfect.
being seated.
Perfect. So
Okay.
I need a second on my
Second.
motion. So Sally seconds. Any more discussion on voting on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We don't have to take a roll call vote because we're on
No.
camera, right? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that's unanimous.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Does Michelle not come because of health worries, or is she?
You wanna,
I think we do want to.
Should we turn that off?
So yes, I'm going to adjourn the meeting
Just wondering.
at 20 minutes to 6.
How do I turn it off?
There's a little button, a little tiny button on the, down on that thing.
what I would do is just unplug everything. Just
That-
unplug everything.
It's the
Plug
second
in.
one in.